We're your favorite show, and we're on all the time here on YouTube. It's Breakfast All Day. We're talking about I Saw the TV Glow, this buzzy, cool A24 indie that is out in limited release right now, but it's going to be going out nationwide on May 17th. So we want to make sure we got to it. You got to subscribe, because if A24 puts out a movie, we're going to talk about it. They have pretty great taste, and if not always great, at least interesting, right?
Sure,
they take chances, and so we love that about them. So we're going to have this movie for you today and whatever else they have coming out all summer long. So come hang out with us. Alonso, what is this movie about?
Sometimes the pink opaque feels more real than real life.
Maddie, it was a TV show.
So this is the sophomore feature from trans filmmaker Jane Schoenbrun, who did We're All Going to the World's Fair, which is the movie that made me look up what creepypasta meant.
What is creepypasta? What is it?
It's sort of like kind of interactive web horror thing. It's sort of like Exquisite Corpse, where people are adding on to the story, and it's all sort of made up, but it seems really real, kind of like Slender Man or whatever. I'm not entirely, look, it's the young people. I don't know. This also feels like it was made for a generation after me, but nonetheless, I'm very much digging what's going on here. We first meet this character played by Ian Foreman. He grows up to be Justice Smith in the 90s and is obsessed with a TV show called The Pink Opaque. It is very much a Buffy the Vampire Slayer with a little bit of Are You Afraid of the Dark thrown in. There's some real detail to things like typefaces and lighting that really capture a certain kind of 90s, kids television. A couple of cameos that underscore that as well, but I won't give those away. And Justice Smith and Brigette Lundy-Paine, this is their way of communicating. This is the one thing that brings these two sort of high school outcasts that are otherwise have nothing in common together. This show, he's not allowed to watch it, comes on late on Saturday nights, and so she videotapes it and leaves him these VHS cassettes so he's able to catch up and see the show. And it's one of those things where fiction bleeds into reality. Schoenbrun is telling kind of a trans story here, not dissimilar to what's happening in The People's Joker, in terms of using pop culture as a way to explain your own life, to figure out your own life, to tell your own life story, and also that desire of finding yourself in pop culture when pop culture is ignoring you and not telling the stories of people like you, which certainly for queer people for, generations, this has been going on. And I think more recently, as we've seen more, LGB representation on TV shows and in movies, I think for the trans community now, they're kind of having this moment of talking about being invisible in film and television and other popular media. There's a really interesting piece that Willow Caitlin McClay, not enough coffee today, wrote for Polygon about this moment of trans storytelling with films like this and People's Joker and T-Blockers, and kind of basically saying that this is sort of the trans equivalent to the new queer cinema of the early 90s, that there's this explosion of filmmakers, of stories being told. And while this movie, well, really both of Schoenbrun's films kind of make me feel super old, because they're so very specifically targeted at a particular generation and how that generation has interacted with TV, with the internet and stuff in a way that is not the way I have. I'm fascinated with the way she tells these stories, and the way that she's kind of capturing this very universal feeling of how we relate to pop culture, what makes us get obsessed. And, are we seeing ourselves in it? Are we implanting ourselves in it if we need to? And so this movie has a really there's a kind of a creepy hum to it, in that it really relates a sense of both dread and mystery and the possibility of, a catharsis in the way that people, receive the media. There's a lot happening in this movie. I need to see it a few more times. But from the one viewing that I saw, I found it fascinating, and I want to know more about the specifics of what she's doing and how that's definitely hitting, from what I'm reading online, people who are younger than I am. But even as somebody who didn't experience it firsthand, I see what she's going after, and I find it really interesting.
Yeah, there's so much here in terms of mood, and so much occurs with these characters that I think she's trying to speak allegorically about, but you could apply that to a variety of kinds of adolescent existence. Like, I don't think you have to be a trans kid to feel seen here. I think you can feel like misunderstood. You can have an unhappy home life. And that was true with People's Joker as well, where it was very, very specific, but then there was a universality about the kind of sense of isolation and feeling misunderstood and lonely that a lot of teenagers, I'm sure,
the
feel.
coming of age process in general. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it really captures like the obsession people feel with certain kinds of pop culture or a TV show, or, you know, like there's a thing where they meet with the book of every episode and they bond over where she sees in him who she was a couple of years earlier because he's a little bit younger than her. And then she realizes like, okay, you need this the way I need this. And there's a nice moment of connection with them. I also just love the look of this.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, I mean, the word glow is not just in the title referring to the television. Like from the very beginning, there is this sense of wonder, but as you put it, also danger. There's something like potentially menacing in that glow, whether it's Justice Smith walking through a carnival and everything behind him, like the camera trucks alongside him, everything behind him is lit up in a way that should be joyful, but might have something sinister beneath it as well. Like the way a vending machine lights up, or just the lighting at the fun center where he ends up working, the ironically titled fun center, which is not fun. So I thought in terms of mood, there's a lot of David Lynch to this, with like the use of dark, rich, lurid color to suggest a portal, to suggest a possibility to a different realm. I've had a lot of Mulholland Drive vibes with this movie in terms of like people crossing into a different plane, which might be real, might be imagined, might be whatever you want it to be, but it's scary and exciting and full of something, full of a different kind of experience. Yeah, for sure. So I thought that was very effective in terms of tone and mood and the use of music, both in the score and in a concert sequence, which again feels like it's a moment of inclusion, but it's also a moment of rage, like primal rage at feeling ostracized and isolated and misunderstood, and like here's a place for the catharsis of all of that. And that's a really powerful moment.
And at the same time, that music sequence calls to mind both the Bronze in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and the Roadhouse in the 3rd season of Twin Peaks.
Oh, interesting. But I think you don't need to know those things.
No.
To
but
know
it. Just,
right, for
course,
sure.
But I just
that's
thought
what you come up with.
Yes, exactly. That's just an interesting little tidbit there that you can take or leave or whatever. So yeah, I think she's a very exciting young filmmaker, and I'm really fascinated to see where her career is going and sort of what her rise sort of portends for what's about to happen in queer cinema. I think we're going into some new and different territories. And it reminds me of, I was in a documentary decades ago now about the sort of the history of queer cinema, and John Waters was also interviewed, and at the end they sort of asked like, what do you want to see next in the blah blah blah, and John Waters was like, I want to see the generation of filmmakers that I find offensive. You know, I want to see the people who you know, like, I'm shocked by what they do. And so what I find exciting about Jane Schoenbrun is like, I don't entirely get what's going on here, and that's thrilling for me. And it means that this subgenre of cinema that I've been following so closely for so long is going into a whole new direction, and I need to keep up, and I need to find out what, you know, the generations after me are up to and what they've been through and how they're expressing that in the work. And so I'm thrilled to go on the journey that she's taking me on, and this film is playing a key part in that.
I'm thrilled that I saw this on a Saturday at 3:30 in the afternoon at the Grove, and it was packed.
Oh yeah,
a beautiful spring day in Los Angeles. Nick and Chris and I all went. We had a great talk afterward about what we thought different moments of you know, symbolism meant. We all interpreted it differently, and that was a great conversation to have. And so that is worthwhile as well. Like, I think if art can provoke you to have that many different kinds of interpretations and have that kind of a rich discussion afterward, then it's doing something right. I will say it ends in a way that's going to be really unsatisfying for a lot of people. I think I got it, and I thought that was powerful, but that and like some of the dialogue is repetitive and plodding in a way that again reminded me of David Lynch.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. This is a movie to see with people and like
Mhm.
chew on it afterwards. Dave is actually seeing it right now.
Oh, good.
So I'm looking forward to him coming home so we can like, go over it. But yeah, I went to like the first show Thursday night at the Grove, also pretty full. So
Yeah.
I'm glad there's a lot of excitement out for this movie. It's in limited release right now. It's going to be opening nationwide on May 17th. So if it's not already near you,
Yeah.
hopefully it will be soon.
What's your number?
I'm gonna say like an 8.5, and with the proviso that I could go higher when I like see this movie more and get it more. But just from a first viewing, I'm already so impressed and excited about the possibilities here. I think it's absolutely a movie that people should check out.
Yeah, I was at 8.2. Also, we didn't talk about the performances, which are both very good.
Oh, good heavens,
and
yes.
very, very enmeshed with each other. They're on one another's wavelength, and they make this very specific and real. In the surrealism, their experience feels very real. The suburbia feels very real.
They provide an anchor to the sort of, not phantasmagoria, but yeah, the surreality of the surroundings.
For sure. So go check it out. I saw the TV Glow.